Video game franchises tend to follow a pretty predictable formula as they develop. The first game establishes the winning formula and lays the groundwork for future titles. Then, the next couple entries experiment and expand upon that original formula, often bringing the titular hero into scenarios previously thought unimaginable. And finally, by the time the series reaches its third or fourth title, the rough edges are smoothed out and the series' core ideas are refined, leaving us with an iconic identity that will stand the test of time. But what comes next? How does the series continue to move forward in unique, creative ways while still holding true to its core identity? This question has never been answered the same way by any two developers. And in the case of Yuji Horii and the Dragon Quest team, the fruit of their labor is quite the beast to behold. Hi there, my name is Daniel, and I think Dragon Quest IV is pretty creative. It's been 2 years since the legendary hero finished his journey, and it's time to once again revisit the realm of swords and slimes. Although this time, we're not talking about Erdrick and Alefgard. No, that story's over. This is the story of Zenithia. Well, one of them at least. According to Yuji Horii, the man, the myth, the legend, Dragon Quest IV was going to mark the dawn of a new era for the franchise. The first 3 titles were, for all intents and purposes, a trilogy. Sure, they captured 3 separate stories at different time periods, but they existed in the same world and were connected by a common lore. If you're a Dragon Quest fan, you know how uncommon this is by today's standards, as the series largely operates off the same design philosophy as Final Fantasy. Each main series title is essentially a standalone adventure with its own unique world. And while Final Fantasy was like this from the beginning, it was actually Dragon Quest IV that started the trend for this series. Well, kind of. Because while Dragon Quest IV, V, and VI are not really connected in any meaningful way, they're technically linked together by their focus on the heavenly kingdom of Zenithia, which is why this group of games is loosely referred to as the Zenithia trilogy. But for the sake of this video, let's zoom into 1990 with Dragon Quest IV, the first Zenithian Dragon Quest title. Because regardless of what would come afterwards, the important thing to keep in mind about this game is that it was different. Different world, different characters, different progression system. They had spent their last 3 games refining their hard-won RPG formula, and now it was time to experiment. But where do you even start? Yuji Horii's team could have tweaked any number of elements in the Dragon Quest formula, but they knew they had to be deliberate and thoughtful with what they changed. It still needed to be Dragon Quest, but it also needed to break its own mold and compete with the other creative RPGs that were starting to emerge. And so came the one singular choice that would set this game apart as one of the most iconic, memorable RPGs of its time. What if we made a game about the characters? Now that might seem like a no-brainer for a role-playing game today, but think about the RPGs we had seen up to this point. The stories in these games were incredibly simple, mostly due to the hardware limitations at the time. They were focused on providing interesting gameplay choices for the player. Narrative came second. There might be some unique scenarios here and there, but chances are you weren't playing these early RPGs for the character development. But in Dragon Quest IV, the characters influence everything, and somehow they were able to make this happen way back on the NES. But for this video, I'm actually playing the DS version, which was brought west in 2008 under the name Chapters of the Chosen. This remake brought a ton of improvements and additional content to the original experience, most notably a short prologue that's helpful for understanding the story a little better, as well as a fun epilogue chapter, which I won't spoil here. It's also available on mobile, and to be perfectly honest, this is probably going to be the easiest way to get your hands on the game at the time of this video. I personally prefer buttons, but hey, the mobile version did add the party chat feature, which sadly had to be cut from the DS version's Western release. A character-driven game where you don't get to talk to the characters? Come on! What you are able to do, though, is play as them. That's right, this guy or girl might be your main character, but you also get to see the world as him, her, him, and them. Let me explain. The title Chapters of the Chosen actually says it all. So the game's plot unfolds in 5 primary chapters, each told from the point of view of one of the game's heroes. Again, this is the hero, but these guys are pretty cool too. And these chapters aren't just a fancy gimmick. They serve both narrative and gameplay purposes by slowly introducing different elements of the game's world piece by piece. Each character is also cleverly designed to illustrate a different aspect of the Dragon Quest experience, so that as you learn more about them, you're also learning more about the game itself. So after the prologue, which introduces us to our hero, you're placed in the armor of this guy, Ragnar McRyan, for the game's first true chapter. This is basically your tutorial, and as such, the objective is incredibly straightforward with little room for exploration. And Ragnar's character reflects this. He's a soldier who's been tasked to rescue the local children who have gone missing. Ragnar is essentially the game's tank, which is informed by his role as a defender with a strong sense of duty. It also means, however, that he doesn't have any magic. That's right, it's back to the basics for this first chapter. You do, however, meet this little guy, Healy, who, as the name suggests, is literally your stand-in healer for this section of the game. Like I said, it's a tutorial, and Ragnar fits the bill perfectly. But then we fast forward to the second chapter, where we're introduced to Alena, a headstrong, tomboyish princess who runs away from home to prove her strength. No, seriously, her dad boards up her window so she can't leave the castle, and she literally headbutts through it. Dang. And as you might expect, Alena is a powerful attacker in combat and pretty much fills the DPS role in this game. She is absolutely not a damsel in distress, and I really love that. In fact, her entire chapter's arc does a great job of mirroring her role as your team's aggressive warrior. She basically hears about this fighting tournament in the next continent over and is like, yeah, I'm gonna win that. And while you do end up entering that tournament alone, you're also given some friends for Alena's journey. Boria, who acts as your mage, and Kirill, who is a half melee, half magic priest class. Pretty similar to your party members in Dragon Quest II, actually. And coupled with the larger explorable space you're given, this expanded party really provides your first true taste of the Dragon Quest experience, which, just like Alena's story, is all about breaking free from obscurity and exploring the fantastic world. And then there's my guy Torneko Taloon, and I'm just gonna level with y'all. This third chapter might just be the most magical part of this whole adventure. I mean, first of all, look at this guy. No shade, but it seriously feels like he was designed to appear as unimposing as possible. I mean, he's just a normal guy trying to make a living as a merchant, and for the majority of his chapter, that's exactly what you do. You literally wake up, thank your wife for making your lunch, go to work selling weapons to adventurers, then go to bed and you do it all over again the next day. You're pretty much living the life of an NPC, and this was 3 decades before Free Guy. Of course, that's not all you do. Torneko ends up becoming an arms trader for some local kingdoms, and by flipping weapons, you eventually save up enough for Torneko to buy his own shop, which actually ends up becoming your party's bank later on. This chapter might be a bit of an interlude gameplay-wise, but I think it does a better job than many other scenarios I've seen, getting me to care about the individual characters that inhabit this world. Torneko might be a humble shopkeeper, sure, but he's actually a husband and a father who wants to make an honest living, support his family, and leave his mark on the world. I mean, if this guy doesn't warm your heart, I don't know what to do for you. But we haven't got the whole gang yet, because across the world, sisters Maya and Meena have been plotting revenge for their father's murder. The game's 4th chapter sees you step into the role of these sisters as they gather intel and keep a low profile. Maya, the older sister, is making money as a dancer, while her younger sister Meena has taken up fortune-telling. And this isn't just reflected in their outfits. Maya steps out early on as the bigger risk-taker of the two and is another one of the game's mages. And Meena, though she's younger, is clearly more responsible and shows this by taking on the role of your party's primary cleric. It's honestly pretty jarring to be thrown from Torneko's mercantile empire into the shoes of these 2 orphans, both of which have low defense builds and are incredibly vulnerable. These sisters are a force to be reckoned with, though, and their quest for revenge leads them to uncover a plot much larger and more sinister than they could have ever imagined. And cool thing, this chapter actually ends with you getting completely owned when this guy, Marquis de Leon, turns out to be this thing. After they definitely get defeated, The sisters escape from their jail cell and flee to a certain town where several of our other friends are, leaving them and us with plenty of motivation to come back and stomp this dude once and for all. Which is exactly what you get to do when you finally pick things up with our main hero in Chapter 5. For reasons, no spoilers, our friend leaves the home we were introduced to earlier on and sets out to fulfill his or her destiny as the legendary hero. This journey leads you around the entire world as the hero connects with all of our previous party members. And this is where the true adventure begins. In fact, Chapter 5 doesn't really feel like a chapter at all. It's more like 1 through 4 was the first half of the game introducing our party, and this is part 2 where everything comes together. I talked in my Dragon Quest 2 and 3 episodes about the multi-act structure Chunsoft introduced, with linear tutorials giving way to open exploration. And Dragon Quest 4 uses this structure to create something truly magical. The first 4 chapters have you sectioned off in these specific parts of the world, and while the game slowly allows for more exploration in each chapter, you're still pretty limited in where you can go. But as soon as you start playing as the hero and gathering your party, something special is unlocked. Not only is each character's stats and equipment right where you left them, there's also this warm sense of reunion with the familiar faces we've come to love throughout our quest. Our hero might not have met them before, but we've spent a lot of time getting to know each person's story and motivation. And having them join forces and find common purpose feels special in a way that not every RPG does. For Dragon Quest IV, there is no separation between story and gameplay. Each chapter brilliantly introduces new characters, teaches game mechanics, and sheds more light on the overarching narrative their stories are a part of. Ragnar's quest to save the missing children leads him to discover that some guy named Pissarro is looking to murder the prophesied legendary hero. So, as is his nature, he sets out to find and protect the hero. Alena's journey of self-growth sets you tantalizingly close to meeting this Pissarro guy at the tournament, and upon returning home, she finds that the entire castle has gone missing, prompting her to search for answers. Torneko's rags to riches story is made possible by the fact that the growing darkness in the world has scared the various kingdoms into stockpiling weapons and armor. Plus, Torneko ends up using these riches to build this tunnel, which is like half the reason our heroes are able to connect in the first place. And then there's Maya and Meena's arc, which officially throws us into this looming threat, as they learn that entire kingdoms have fallen under the control of monsters whose power is greater than anything we've faced so far. Each of these chapters builds on the last, and from the unique vantage point of the player, we can feel the world slowly descending into darkness, so that by the time our hero steps onto the scene, we know exactly what's at stake and why we're fighting to protect it. Dragon Quest III may have personalized its narrative by focusing on a single father-son relationship, but Dragon Quest IV brings things home by zooming out and letting us see the world through many sets of eyes. There are so many other things I could rave about with this game. I haven't even gotten to the casino, wagon, party tactics, or mini medals, but we'll leave those for another video. What really blew me away about Dragon Quest IV was its ability to bring to life so many unique individual stories that all support and connect with each other. Each character in this game has a meaningful role to play in your quest, and by experiencing the world through their eyes, you really get the sense that they're more than just stats on a screen. Now this might sound weird, but Dragon Quest IV gave me empathy for the lives of these people. I connected with their pain and identified with their motivation. Having them in my party was important, not just because it helped my goal to beat the game, but because I was helping them fulfill their purpose as well. It asked me to slow down and consider my party members as people with stories to tell. And to be honest, I'm really bad at doing that. How often do I just speed through my day, working my job so I can get on with my life and enjoy my relationships? Guys, I have really bad tunnel vision, and a lot of times I fail to notice just how many people, how many stories I pass by in a 24-hour period. At my job, at the grocery store, in traffic. What if I was to slow down and really consider the beauty and grandeur of each human being I interacted with? Every single person has a story, and today, I am grateful for the intricate web of stories around me. Thanks so much for watching. This video goes out to Jason, a dear friend and mentor of mine who teaches me to truly see people and connect with them. You've taught me how to show empathy and unconditional love through our friendship, Jason, and for that, I'm forever grateful. And for the rest of you friends, I want you to know that you're loved, you're valuable, and you are creative. God bless y'all. Have a great day.